Good morning, or at least morning here on the West Coast. We are here to talk about MBA that pays off big. We're going to talk about job placements and career opportunities and return on investment. And we have links in the description. This is actually the third episode of a series of discussions about MBA rankings and how to choose your school. Episode 1 was with my colleague, Donna, about MBA rankings as a logical first step for selecting programs. Episode 2 was with my colleague, Lisa, about how many dream versus safety schools should you apply to. And so the links to those episodes are in the description. And so before we get into the bulk of what we're here to talk about, I'm just going to give you a quick little introduction about myself. I went to Duke University for my undergrad to become a doctor, but I became a manager for the men's basketball program. Unfortunately, we just missed getting all the way to the championship recently in basketball, but we did have a good run. While I was in school, I was influenced by the team to go into sports and entertainment, and that led to a postgraduate internship with the Atlantic Coast Conference, where I learned how the league supports all member institutions across all sports and works with television partners to maximize exposure and revenue. After that, I found myself in a dream job working in Bristol, Connecticut for ESPN, where I developed strategy for college football, college basketball, NCAA tournaments, and many more. I also produced programming for Black History Month, which is what led me to want my MBA. So I applied to 7 schools, got into 5 of them, and I ultimately chose to go to the Yale School of Management so that I could fill business knowledge gaps, so I could start my own production company where I would develop ideas that I am passionate about and maintain the business control over them instead of giving the power up to someone else. I was an admissions interviewer at SOM, where I was trained by the admissions committee on how to determine fit and readiness for the applicants. And I have been an admissions counselor for over 16 years and have enjoyed helping clients to follow their dreams. And I am also looking forward to my SOM reunion in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to say how many years it's been, but that was a great experience for me. And I also want to tell you just a little bit about Stratus, and then we'll get into the presentation. So Stratus admissions counseling, we have a team-based approach where all counselors have an MBA from a top business school. That includes a primary counselor, a senior strategist, a school-specific reviewer, or if you have multiple schools, there'll be multiple school-specific reviewers, and proofreaders and a dedicated client relationship manager. So this is actually a team-based approach in the way that admissions departments do a team-based approach to selecting their class for that year. And that's one of the things that really drove me to Stratus is I love that collaboration and being able to bounce ideas off of my colleagues and being able to therefore give you even more expertise. So through the process, you will touch anywhere from 6 to 8 Stratus professionals when you do several schools with us. And one thing that I think sets us apart is that we have a 4-school guarantee. So if you work with us on 4 or more schools in round 1 and are unfortunately not admitted to any of them, we will work with you for 2 additional schools in round 2 at no additional cost. And we truly care about the outcome. We want you to get into a great program that is a great fit for you, and not just what other people say is a great fit, but what you feel is the best fit. And if it takes 2 years to get there, we will still help you. I had a client a couple of years ago who utilized the 4-school guarantee after having some difficulty in round 1, and she's getting ready to graduate from Rochester now, where she has thrived. And I had another client who worked with me on his applications 2 years ago, but without success. And we worked in the interim between cycles just to improve his profile. And so he subsequently got into Georgetown and UNC, and he is finishing up his first year at Keenan Flagler. So we focus on your story to help you present the best version of yourself as possible. And so now we are discussing what is return on investment. And I just want to keep in mind that I'll be checking the chat box throughout. So if you have questions, please go ahead and go into the chat box. I will be updating or reading your questions. But just talking about return on investment, just the official definition from Investopedia is return on investment, or ROI, is a performance measure used to evaluate the efficiency or profitability of an investment or compare the efficiency of a number of different investments. ROI tries to directly measure the amount of return on a particular investment relative to the investment's cost. So that is a mouthful, but in simpler terms, ROI is just a way to measure whether or not an investment is truly worth it. And I'm sure that you already understood that concept since you are here looking for business schools. But obviously, the MBA degree is truly an investment, with top 25 schools averaging over $200,000 in tuition, living expenses, and fees. So it is certainly reasonable to question what the ROI is. And so the question comes, how do you measure ROI? So there are a couple of different ways. There are actually several different ways if you do your own research as to how people try to measure the ROI. But one of the more common and simpler ways is just looking at the school's salary to debt ratio. This is actually something that USA Today uses when they measure ROI, and you'll see other publications doing the same. And so basically, what you're going to do is just take the expected started salary that you'll have post MBA and divide that by the total school debt. Now, there are some publications that also utilize or include the opportunity cost of lost wages during the 2 years that you're in school. But for purposes of this slide and just to illustrate, I'm going with the simpler calculation where it's just the cost of the school itself along with the fees. But it is a good idea to keep in mind the salary you could have earned staying in your current job that you will not be earning while in school. And you also want to factor potential signing bonus into this calculation as well. And as I mentioned, USA Today uses this format of calculating ROI. And so it was in a July 2024 article that they calculated salary to debt ratios for 32 MBA programs with some of the highest ROI by this measure. And so Notre Dame, Mendoza, was one of the schools that they used in this study. And they actually fare quite well because the total expected starting salary was $172,098 according to their employment reports. Total cost was going to be about $59,549. So that gives you just a simple calculation of a 2.9 to 1 salary to debt ratio. That's actually obviously just a 1 year salary. And I see that, I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Varun asks, does your 4-school guarantee work for someone who chooses all the 4 schools as REACH schools? Yes, it does. We do not discriminate, and we do not say, well, because the schools that you chose are too hard, we're not going to give you the guarantee. No, it doesn't matter what 4 schools you pick. If you've worked with us on 4 schools, and that's the key, that you have to work with us on 4 schools, not just apply, then we automatically give you 2 schools for free in round 2. And so we're also going to talk about another way of how to measure ROI, and that is to find how long it will take to pay off your debt. And that is pretty simple. Just you want to, 1, determine total costs of attending the MBA program. You want to include lost wages for the 2 years that you're in school and calculate the difference between your pre-MBA salary and your expected post-MBA salary and divide that cost by the salary difference. And Varun, I see you're saying thank you. You are very welcome. I hope that was helpful. And so just continuing on with that calculating how long to pay off your debt, we have an example here. And again, these numbers may or may not represent any one particular school. It's just to show you how to make this calculation. So in this example, we're assuming that before getting the MBA, the salary was $80,000 a year, and that the starting salary post MBA is $120,000 per year. And so we're also going to assume that the school costs $70,000 per year. So that's just for the tuition, living expenses, fees, and all of that. That's $70,000. So we are going to calculate the cost by multiplying that $70,000 per year times 2 years. We're going to add in the lost wages. So the $80,000 that you could have made each year, we're multiplying that by 2, adding that together. So that's a total cost of $300,000 per year just to go to school. If your pre-MBA salary was, well, I made an error in the slide. I meant to change everything to $130K post-MBA. So I apologize for that error. But the salary difference would just be the pre-MBA salary minus, or the post-MBA salary minus the pre-MBA salary. So we're saying $50,000. So your time to pay back this cost will just be the total cost of the school divided by the salary difference. So that's 6 years for your degree to pay off. And so that's your break even. And then after that, you're just full learning or full earning potential from there on. So again, apologize for that error in that slide. But there are some things to consider. Of course, everything I've discussed so far assumes that you are paying the full cost of school. However, many students do receive scholarship offers, and often greatly reducing the cost and thus making the ROI much higher. Furthermore, you have to consider that different industries have different salary figures and will themselves provide different ROIs even within the same school. And while many people focus on going to the highest ranked school, that may not be the best fit or the best ROI for you. I recently had a client who received substantial scholarship money from Fordham and decided to forego his spot on the NYU waitlist because he was calculating that his pre-MBA experience in entertainment, he's actually a musician, will help him overcome any perceived difference in resources between the two schools. And so by greatly reducing the cost to essentially zero, even if he does end up with a lower salary, just because Fordham maybe has fewer resources for placing you in entertainment, his ROI is still going to be higher. So that's something you want to keep in mind, is just making sure that you include any potential scholarships. And strict cost analyses will not be the end-all be-all. You will learn in your microeconomics courses about utility functions, where economists try to model your emotions and the utility you'll receive from a given decision. So just using myself as an example, I was offered a full ride to Babson, which is considered #1 perennially in entrepreneurship. So that was a reason why I was really interested in them. And I still to this day love Babson and consider them a diamond in the rough. It's a gem that I point a lot of clients to. Whereas SOM was offering me a partial scholarship, so it was going to be more cost that I would be taking on, but I still considered SOM to be the better ROI because I included things like culture, fit, resources, the student body I'd be joining. And yes, prestige was maybe part of that, but it was really more about the intangibles and that utility that it would bring me to be on that campus with those students that I had started meeting, started developing relationships with, that made that ROI calculation maybe sway more in Yale's direction, even though just on paper it was going to be higher cost. And just keep in mind, I am staying on top of comments. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to dive in. But we're also going to talk about just some trends as it relates to ROI and how to use that information for making decisions on what is the right business school for you. So GMAC has done several studies over the years on ROI. The particular slide that you're seeing now is based on GMAC's 2024 Corporate Recruiters Survey. And in that, they find that employers find graduate management education as even more important for the changing landscape. They have a higher level of confidence in the success of graduates, which leads to a greater chance for promotion and overall earnings. They especially value the flexibility and skills of MBA graduates in the increasingly hybrid work settings. As you see from the chart, this is reflected in the projected 2024 median MBA salary to be 1.75 times greater than that of bachelor degree holders. And then if you even look at other master's degrees, the MBA has the highest median salaries, suggesting that in general, the degree is worth the cost. And so one thing you want to look at when you are considering the ROI is the employment reports. Employment reports are an incredibly valuable resource in determining what your ROI can be. While the top-ranked business schools will give you a holistic education across all business disciplines and have strengths across all dimensions, there are still particular strengths to each school that leads to them placing people in more roles in a given field versus another. Just as a few examples, Kellogg is still known more for its consulting than anything else. SOM, my alma mater, still has that nonprofit reputation, despite having many strengths beyond that. And UT Austin, along with Rice and a handful of other schools, they're known for energy. So these are just a few examples of great schools that can prepare you for anything because of their strengths across the board, but they might lean one way or another. And the schools also have different relationships with recruiters from various organizations. So if you have a target company or set of companies in mind, consider which school is more likely to be recruited by your dream employer. The employment reports will have that information. And different industries also have different timelines. Investment banking, for instance, will have a timeline further out than other industries, with internships typically being sewn up by January. Other fields may be recruiting until much closer to the end of the school year. So plan out your timeline accordingly, as that will affect how likely you are to be placed in your full-time job come your second year, and it will affect what kind of salary you hope to get. You also need to have a sense for where you want to live and or where your intended industry resides. With that, consider whether or not a given school is well known enough in that area to give you a recruiting advantage. There are more fantastic schools than can fit in the top 25. So you have a lot of great programs that are known maybe more regionally, a lot of programs that are known nationally, and then other programs that are also known globally. And so you might have high ROI in a school's region, just using UT Austin as an example again, or even Rice Jones, which also is great in energy and also in Texas. Their ROI, you might calculate that to be higher in that southwestern area than maybe if you take that more globally. Like if you wanted to try to go international with that degree, Rice's reputation and prestige globally may not be the same as maybe Macomb's or some other programs like a Ross. But if you're looking to stay in the southwestern area, then all of a sudden Rice becomes a much more viable option for you and can increase that ROI just because maybe cost of attending Rice is lower, and those starting salaries in the Southwestern region are higher. And I also had many classmates, international classmates of mine at SOM, who chose to come to SOM because of the Yale name. And you see that a lot with people applying to Harvard or Stanford, because they want to work outside of the US, and just globally, those brands are known everywhere. So from that standpoint, maybe the ROI is much higher if you go to even a higher cost school, because they are more well known, with more prestige. The other thing you want to take a look at is the alumni base, because a certain school may have alumni everywhere, whereas others might be more concentrated in a given region. So in some alumni bases are more active and helpful than others. So take a look at the size and locations of these alumni networks. And so I know we went through this relatively quickly. There weren't too many questions yet, but I am opening the floor officially to questions. So anyone who has a question about anything that I've talked about or wants me to dive a little deeper into some of that, please feel free to drop in the comments. And this last slide is just if you want a free consultation with Stratus, you can check that top QR code. And we also have free guides to many of the top programs, both domestically in the US and internationally, that are some of the more popular programs that our clients apply to. So these guides just give you a lot of great information on what these schools are looking for, what their cultures are like, and other tips to help you make yourself the best possible candidate for acceptance. And the quote listed here is from a former client of mine who is Kellogg bound after also getting into Columbia, Ross, Fuqua, SOM, and Darden as a consortium student. And in her case, just to kind of tie this back to ROI, like me, she comes from a college sports environment. And as she was calculating ROI, she just found Kellogg to have the best opportunity to place her. And because she already has a sports background, she was a trainer, an athletic trainer before going into kind of a more general health service oriented position. And she wants to go into league work, helping to set up the health and wellness for women's sports. So because she already has this background, she didn't feel the need to go to a school where there is a strong athletic department. Instead, she wanted to go to where she felt the alumni base would be strongest and her connections would be best. So just keep those kinds of things in mind as you calculate your own ROI based on the career aspirations that you have. And again, if you have any questions or would like more information, and it doesn't have to be specifically about the topic of ROI. It could be about your own applications or your own profile. Any questions that you have to help you consider school choice or your strengths or weaknesses going into the application process, whatever those questions may be, feel free to fire away. I guess I'll just throw it to Varun if you're still on. Do you have a sense for what schools you want to apply to? And what would be considered reach or maybe more target for you? Well, maybe Varun is not still on, but I'll give you guys just a few more seconds to see if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we will go ahead and wrap it up. Oh, here we go. We have a question from Abiarth, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Is USA a good option for an Indian candidate? I hear that Indian candidates are not getting jobs post MBA. So that is a very interesting and very good question. I would say it goes back to where do you intend to work? Like if you want to work in the USA post MBA, then that makes the USA a better option for you. Just obviously, where you want to work is going to determine where the best schools are for you and where the best ROI is. I think it kind of fluctuates as to who's able to get work in what regions post MBA. So I wouldn't really take that what you're hearing about MBA or Indian candidates not getting jobs post MBA is kind of fact. There obviously are considerations in terms of visa changes that I'm not an employment or visa expert. So I won't try to delve into that or get into the political nature of what's going on in the country right now. But I do have a lot of friends from my time at SOM who are Indian candidates who were able to get placed in the U.S. as well as elsewhere. I've had clients and colleagues who had clients who were able to get placed. It's just once you're in the program, you have all of the resources of that school's career development office. So depending on what field you're going into and where you intend to work, that tends to determine whether or not you're going to get that job post MBA. A lot of people want to use the MBA to go back, whether it's India or whether it's another country, to their home countries. And just because of expected salaries in the home country, in that regard, maybe the US MBA is not the best ROI just because of the high cost of an American MBA compared to international programs. So you might even look at European or Asian programs in that regard if you plan to go back to India or someone who maybe is planning to go back to a country in Africa or something like that. The asterisk to that is a lot of people who do want to go back to their home countries and take certain skills to help improve infrastructure or things like that. They will try to work in the US for the short term, partially to pay back debt, but also to get certain skills and expertise within their intended industry that they can then utilize along with the MBA back in the home country. And so you say you're adding to your question that you're targeting MBB for consulting, and you say that recruiters are freezing to hire more international candidates due to the political nature of what's going on in the U.S. I think we're a little too early to see exactly how that's going to play out in the long term. That's obviously something that you do need to consider just because of different changes in policies that we're still kind of in the early onset. So we're not, I think there's a degree to which there's a question mark, which that's a frustrating answer, I know, but that is kind of where we are. That is mostly a question mark on how many international candidates MBB are hiring. But you might, again, if the U.S. market or MBA market is not looking as viable, then I would say you could look at Europe and Asia because the policies are very different there, and but the cost of the programs are lower, so it could be a higher ROI. All right. Any other? I hope that answers your question, Abby Arth, even though it's still a little murky, so not a definitive answer. But if anyone else has any other questions, I'll leave it open for a few more seconds. All right. It looks like we have gotten all the questions we're going to get. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you found this helpful. And again, in the description, you're very welcome, Abby Arth. I see that you have one last question. You want a US-based job due to high ROI, but you're told that LBS is not recognized within the US or well known among US-based employers. I'm not sure that I agree with that. LBS is a global brand. They may not be where a lot of the recruiters go. So I think that's the angle that where I would talk about how easy it is to get a U.S. job out of LBS. But and also if you're already in the U.S. For school, it's probably a little bit easier just to kind of change visa status in terms of employment. But if you're just talking about the school and it being recognized, I think LBS is fairly well known. And I actually have a friend from undergrad who got his MBA. I forget which French school, but it was a French school, and he's been thriving in the U.S. Granted, he was an American who went to Duke undergrad, so that may have helped a little bit. But you do have, if you going to a non-U.S. program that it maybe isn't even that well known in the U.S. is not a killer. It just doesn't, from a recruiting standpoint, I think that's where you would notice the difference more than anything else. But prestige-wise, MBB, they're going to be familiar with LBS, particularly since a lot of the MBBs internationally are going to be employing a lot of LBS people. So certainly the American counterparts will be familiar with London Business School. So I would absolutely keep LBS in the mix. All right. You're very welcome, Abiyar. And are there any other final questions? All right, great. So as I started to say a moment ago, I just want to remind you that in the description are links to the previous 2 episodes of this series. This is episode 3 of the series of choosing your MBA program and finding business schools that align with your career goals. And this will also be available on YouTube shortly. So thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.